Well, hello and welcome back to the Single Father Podcast, where we journey through the depths of single fatherhood together. I'm your host, Kendall Donaker, aka Father DZ, and today we're continuing our series of Why Are We Here with Part 2. This episode is titled Personal Pain and Parental Responsibilities. Life throws us curveballs, doesn't it? Lately, I have been dealing with the biggest curveball of my life, let me tell you. It's been hard. No, it's been real hard. And as single fathers, as parents, we're no strangers to adversity. But what happens when our personal pain threatens to overwhelm us? When the weight of our own struggles feels too heavy to bear, and yet we must still stand strong for our children? Well, today we're going to explore that. And maybe we'll explore a little bit about ourselves in the process.
I love you, Daddy.
Today we're diving into this delicate balance, the intersection of our own pain and on our unwavering commitment to our children. How do we navigate the stormy seas of grief, trauma, and headache while still being able to be stable enough to have a loving presence our children can rely on? I gotta tell you, the first step in this journey is acknowledging your own pain. It's okay to admit that we're hurting, that we're struggling to stay afloat in this midst of life's challenges. But what's important is how we choose to respond to that pain. It's hard to do, easier said than done, most of you are probably thinking. Again, I have been dealing with something very personal and very hard for me lately. And for me, it took me by surprise. It shook me to my core. But in the midst of my pain, I realized that I couldn't let it consume me. I had a daughter who needed me, who relied on me to be her rock. So I learned to honor my pain while still showing up for her, And when I mean my honor, my pain, is I want to acknowledge it. I want to treat it with respect. Because you don't want to just brush off your pain. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to just brush it off like it's nothing, because it is something. Let me tell you. The pain that I have been experiencing lately in my own personal life within this past month has been intense. It's been profound. It's challenged my every belief in life, in the universe, even in God, I'm afraid to say. I'm ashamed to say. But I didn't brush away my pain. I'm one of those people who, if I'm going through a hard time, I tend to shut down. I regress into kind of like a hermit, where I become kind of recluse. I'm hard to reach, or I'm hard to get in touch with. I'm hard to have a conversation with. I don't want to have a conversation when I'm in pain. Because the acknowledgement of my pain, sometimes that can be what pains me the most. knowing that I'm in pain. It doesn't matter what the pain's about, really. Just knowing that I'm in pain can pain me. Lately, I've been having my grandma, who I call my Nana. I'm not sure if many of you do, but my Nana's been reaching out to me, and every day she leaves me a beautiful note about how positive life is and how beautiful the world is and how I should get up and approach every day with bliss, joy, and a cheerful attitude about how lucky I am to be alive and how grateful I am to have the shirt on my back and the skin that I have and the breath air that I get to take in. And every morning I read the text that she sends me, and every night I read it again, and I have to say, for as much as I appreciate it, boy does it irritate me. It irritates me for a strange reason. I guess it irritates me because I guess it irritates me because I almost don't want to feel okay. I'm going through a hard time, and I don't want to just pretend like everything's fine, hunky and dory. And I know that's not what she's asking, but reading these positive affirmations every day, it's just so hard, because how can I bring myself to that positive state? How can I be positive? How can I look ahead? How can I be excited about life, about anything? What is good in my life? And then I turn and I look at my daughter, sleeping right next to me, with a blanket spread across her body and one of her favorite stuffed animal kitties clenched in her chest. The innocence, the beauty on her face. I realized at that moment, that's how I can move forward. That's how I believe in a better tomorrow, because she is my better tomorrow. It's often said that strength lies in vulnerability. And as single fathers, we embody that every day, opening up our struggles, seeking help when we need it. These are acts of courage, not weakness. I remember the first time I broke down in front of my daughter. I was deeply shamed, but I was unable to hide the pain that I was feeling. I was terrified that I was failing her, that I was showing her a side of me that I didn't want her to see. But you know what? I think it brought us closer together. It showed her that it's okay not to be okay, and that we can lean on each other for support. Because in that moment when I was crying, because I just felt helpless, I felt weak, I felt vulnerable, I felt alone. That little girl came up to me in my vulnerable state of my own self-perceived failure, and she put her hand on my face and said, "Dad, it's okay. Everything is going to be all right." And she gave me a hug. Now look at that. A 5-year-old little girl has the fortitude and the knowledge to know that everything will be okay. And she didn't say it because she had any real knowledge of my situation or any comprehension of anything that I was going through. But she said it because she believed it, because she trusted it. The words that she said weren't just nonsensical words that just came out of a 5-year-old's mouth. She believed in what she was saying. She knew everything is going to be okay. And in that moment, I took on that knowledge. I believed with her. I stood up. And whereas my legs were shaking and wobbly, they were filled with strength and determination. And whereas my chest felt uneasy and afraid, I was filled with hope and an overwhelming sense of belief. And as I looked in my daughter's eyes, I saw purpose. I saw my purpose to keep going. I notice in times like these, it can feel strange to rely on your kids for strength, but isn't that what we do every single day? Rely on our children to get us out of bed in the morning? Isn't that our reason why? Why we don't just let things lapse, why we keep going, why we don't just accept failure, why we keep pushing through the pain, through the hurt, why we get through every obstacle, why we push through every mountain. Isn't it for our children? I mean, listen, I know it's for ourselves in a grander scheme of it all, but isn't it for the things that we love, the things that we find purpose in? I mean, if we didn't find purpose in anything, is anything worth purpose? It's funny to think of a young kid being able to communicate with you in such a way, but I often find myself, appropriately telling her some things about my life, telling her I'm feeling scared today, or I'm feeling alone, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling happy, and we have a conversation about it. I mean, and as much of a conversation as you can have with a 5-year-old without giving them any real context to what you're going through, but it's beautiful in a way. We talk, and she, in her own little way, gives me advice, and I like that. We share something with each other. We share a bond, a sense of trust, an open dialogue with your children, isn't it? I think that's wonderful. I think my daughter as my best friend in a way. I tell her everything I can tell her. And we laugh and we fight. But at the end of the day, she knows that I'm always there for her, and I know that she is always so close to me. As single fathers, as parents, we often put our children's needs before our own. But it's crucial to remember that we can't pour from an empty cup. Taking care of ourselves isn't selfish. It's necessary for our well-being and our ability to be there for our children. I don't know how many of you have been on a plane recently, but if you actually pay attention to the beginning of the plane, they say when the little, the air, things, the things that make you breathe, when they come down from the plane in case of an emergency, they say, I'm sure you're familiar with what they say to take care of yourself first before you help the children or the people around you. And what that really means is make sure that you can breathe first before you can help someone else breathe. And I really want you to think about that just for a moment. When things are going crazy, when you feel the burden of a storm all around you, when chaos is around you, you have to make sure that you can breathe. before you help anyone else around you? How can you help someone else breathe when you're not breathing? You have to make sure that you're not drowning in order to pick somebody else up. And I just want to stay there for one more moment. When chaos and pain is engulfing you, when you're scared, when you're frightened, when you're alone, make sure that you can breathe. Because you can't help anyone else if you're not breathing. It's not selfish to take care of ourselves. We can't pour from an empty cup. So whether it's, carving out time for hobbies or seeking therapy or simply allowing ourselves moments of rest and reflection, self-care, it's pivotal. It's part of our journey as fathers. It's how we recharge, how we find the strength to keep pushing forward, even in the face of personal pain. When I find myself in a chaotic state and things are going negatively in my life, as I admit recently they have been, I find that it's helpful to sit in that for a moment and think about how I can change the things around me. Sometimes I believe that when my situation isn't going well, I try to change my environment. Meaning, I'll go on a walk more often, if I don't already. Maybe if I haven't gone to the park with my daughter that much, I'll make that a routine. Maybe I'll go to the dog park and sit for a little bit when I don't have my daughter. Maybe I'll do something a little more close to home. Maybe I'll do meditation. Like mindfulness exercises. Journaling. Seeking support from my friends or family. Working on my passions. Writing down my goals, my dreams, my ambitions. Going to the gym. Working on my body. Working on my mind. Working on me. I want to talk about the power of support and connection. As single fathers, we don't have to navigate our struggle alone. Whether it's leaning on friends and family, joining support groups, or seeking professional help, there is strength in reaching out. I found a lot of peace in connecting with others, like other fathers or the people in my position who understand my unique challenges that I face. I like sharing my stories, my triumphs, and my setbacks. It reminds us that we're not alone, and that there's a community of fathers or parents out there that might be able to help us, to grow with us, to understand us. I think why I push back so much on people reaching out to me when I'm going through a hard time is I'm afraid they won't understand. And it's hard to tell someone something bad, isn't it? You want to always talk about something good. If my grandma calls me and asks how my day is, I don't want to tell her that I've been struggling or crying or something like that. I want to tell her that things are great. But the truth is, I'll admit to you guys today, things have not been great. But I guarantee they'll get better. And I have hope. More than that, I have purpose. All of my pain this month kind of stems from some bad news that I learned earlier in the month. I was driving to the grocery store as happy as can be, and then the moment I parked, I get a call, and boom, bad news arrived. And when I hung up the phone, I laid still for a moment, paralyzed in my own disbelief and depression. And as I stayed there, staring off into space, I was truly paralyzed. I saw my hand shaking, and I wasn't able to get myself out of it. It must have been only for a few moments, but watching my hand shake, it felt like an eternity. Until I hear a voice. Dada, are you okay? I look up in my rear view window, or my mirror, and I see my daughter in the back seat, staring at me with wondrous eyes, asking the question again, "Are you okay, Dada?" And in that moment of paralyzing pain, I regained control of my hand. I turned back, and I smiled at her, and I said, "Everything's perfect, beautiful girl." And I looked at her. I looked at her beautiful eyes. And it's funny, because in that moment when I said everything is perfect, when I looked at her, I meant it. I didn't have time to fall in despair. I didn't have time to cripple up into sadness, to cry, to give up. I pushed forward, because that's what that little girl deserves out of me. And that's who I am as a father. Because she is not just my daughter, not just my best friend, she is my purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, she's the reason for it all. And I know a lot of you must feel that way. All of you there who are struggling in their lives right now, whether it be from a job, a relationship, or a certain situation that you feel like you can't find your way out of. I'm here to tell you today that there is always a way. I'm not sure if any of you who are religious, but I remember this song I used to hear. And believe it or not, it was on this show that I used to watch called VeggieTales. And it was a story about, something about the wise men. And there was this guy who, I'm not even really sure how the story went, to be honest. I just remember he pissed off some wise men, and the wise men threw him in a cave full of lions, expecting him fully to die. And mind you, I'm learning this story from the eyes of VeggieTales, but By the way, if any of you are familiar with VeggieTales, please leave a comment below. But in this scared moment of this person, he couldn't find any way out. He thought this was it. This was the end. There is no option that I see. There is no way out. There is no light. There is no path forward. I have nothing left. And then this angelic woman comes down and she sings, "You're not alone. There is one who is watching you, and God is his name. And although it seems this time you won't get through, God has made a way." And as this person, who I just remembered his name is Daniel in the lion's den, as Daniel sits there in this lion den full of danger all around him, surrounded by fear, surrounded by a storm around him, he remembers that there is always calm within the storm. And he sits down. And in the morning, as the light shines through the sky, everyone comes to see Daniel, knowing that he probably got ripped to shreds by the group of lions that were placed around him. And to their surprise, Daniel called out to them in the morning, unscathed, not in pain, completely fine. Daniel's purpose was through God. It was through belief. He believed that things would be okay, even when he could not see a way out. And I go through a similar situation in my own life. I do not know the way out of certain situations, but I do know that when I look in my daughter's eyes, I know that there is a way, and that if I haven't found it, it will come to me, and I will search for it, because I have purpose. And that's why I'm here. For that little girl, huh? For that beautiful angelic person that makes me feel safe in my darkest of times. As we explore the depths of personal pain and the unwavering commitment to our children, it's natural to wonder, why are we here? Why do we endure the trials and tribulations of life, especially when faced with our own struggles? Perhaps in the midst of our darkest moments, we find the answer. We're here to love, to nurture, to protect, the very essence of parenthood. It's in these moments of vulnerability, when we're confronted with our own pain, that we discover the true depth of our purpose. Our journey as single fathers is not just about fulfilling our own parental duties. It's about embracing the profound interconnectedness of life. It's about recognizing that our experiences of pain and resilience are not just about individual trials, but the threads woven into the fabric of the human experience. So, why are we here? Maybe we're here to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become the best versions of ourselves, not just for our children, but for the world around us. Our struggles shape us, mold us into the resilient, compassionate beings capable of weathering life's storms with grace and dignity. In the end, our purpose is simple, yet profound. To love fiercely, to persevere through adversity, and to leave a legacy of hope and resilience for the generations to come. That, my friends, that might be why we're here. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Single Father Podcast as we continue to unravel life's deepest mysteries. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and pass this episode along to any others who may need to hear these words. Until next time, keep embracing the journey, one step, one day, one heartfelt moment at a time. I'm Kendall Donaker, and join us next week as we explore, why are we here?